All right, I'm going to try to make this a pretty quick video. Last season, I did a handful of different Mythic Plus tip videos as the season kind of went on. I think I ended up doing 2 or 3. I think it might have been 2. But basically, I want to share some tips with you guys to make either your runs easier, different routing decisions that my group makes and the reasons why, or just like weird, quirky tips to make certain pulls easier, boss fights easier, or just like pulls more efficient. So let's get into it. Now, we're going to start off in the Ecodome, and there's a lot of things that I want to discuss here. So I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. So at this point, we are reaching the first boss's stairs. The entrance to the first boss is right kind of behind me to my right. Now, what you can do in this area is you can actually pull the Sentinel through the wall. Now, as most players know, this is a barricade that doesn't allow you to pass through. This is all invisible wall up here. But if you go right up against the wall and you cast Chi Burst, you'll see the Chi Burst actually kind of go out here. And it's going to hit these two mobs, which will instantly kill them because they're RP mobs. And it also hits the Sentinel. And so the Sentinel will start coming through the wall. And this is kind of a time save in a way. Like, it's really just an efficiency thing. And then one other thing you saw me do there is you can actually outrange the Frontal. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to slow this down to like half speed. And you're going to see how this works. So the Sentinel is going to come through. Once he's through, you definitely want to make sure you like taunt him. I have Weapons of Order rolling as a monk. His Frontal can also be outranged. It's like 15 or 20 yards, give or take. Not all tanks can do this, because some tanks just aren't mobile. Like, for example, I find that actually most tanks struggle at getting out of it reliably, outside of, like, maybe Heroic Leap or a Divine Steed Charge. But, like, things like DK, Guardian Druid, like, might really struggle at getting out of it. But if you outrange it, you won't take the dodge either. So that's, like, 2 tips for the Sentinel. Sentinels are really dangerous, so we're going to actually try to avoid pulling them as much as we can. Now, this is right after the first boss. We just did a big pull with a bunch of Phase Blades and Farstalkers. We're actually going to end up skipping some of these other mobs. Now, what you can do is you can make your way kind of through these plants here, and you're able to sneak over here. Now, I think we popped Shroud really early. There's no reason for us to really Shroud this early, but you can also Shroud through. So right here, there's enough of a gap for you to make it through. If this pack is also on the left-hand side, once they reach over here, you can walk around this side. Now, there's also this Sentinel way in the back you see. This guy doesn't really matter. There's a couple things you can do. First off, we're going to try to get a distract on him in a second. As you can see, we just did right there. You can also Warlock Gate up to this cliff. And so that's like 2 ways you can skip this with either a Warlock or a Rogue in your group. You can also do it with Shadow Meld. Or not Shadow Meld. What am I talking about? Shadow Meld? Sure. Maybe. A tank can also pull this mob off to the side. Your group runs by, stands over here in the grass, and then the tank can like meld it off. But basically, we are skipping this Sentinel. Now, again, this is a little bit more comp specific, but it's possible to do so. One other thing that I want to mention, which I don't think will be showcased in this video, is these Ruin Stalkers. The way that their teleport works is they always teleport behind a player, and then they charge through that player in the way that they're facing. So if your entire party faces this tent, for example, or faces some kind of terrain, like this sign or a rock or this barricade, these mobs will stay stacked up, making them pretty much fodder and just like free, like obviously free damage or free funnel. If I back this up just a little bit, you'll actually see how these, maybe I can point it out here in a second, how these guys work. Basically, they'll always, based on where people are facing, you'll see that they'll teleport behind and then dash through. We don't utilize it in this run. So as you can see there, it was targeting, I don't know who was standing here, but basically it targeted someone who was facing this direction. And now this one targeted me because I'm facing this way. So it teleports behind me and then it'll dash through. So again, you can use terrain, but also they don't really do anything. So if they're teleporting around like crazy, you're going to lose some damage, but eventually they'll die. So just keep that in mind. One other thing that I really like to do here is we have now cleared the trash. The boss is about to spawn. I'm actually going to pull trash onto this boss. The second boss in here, in my opinion, this might not be true for everyone, this boss is kind of really easy. And so getting a lot of this trash onto boss early could really make use of cooldowns, make use of lust, give your group more funnel damage if you have access to it. Obviously, this group doesn't have a ton of funnel. So now we're going to pull boss. Phase Blades do a little bit of tank damage. The Farstalker leaps to random players and does AoE damage. So if you have a couple range in your group who stand a little bit further out, damage is quite minimal and it only requires 1 melee kick. So this is a very easy way to get free count. Or not free count because you're obviously having to kill it. But as you can see right here, I'm going to back this up just a little bit. These mobs are about to die. The Arcane Overload just started. I'm going to make sure my dash goes through the boss, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull even more trash onto this boss in a second. So we're kind of waiting for this little or not mini game, but this little intermission to be over. We're going to kick this Far Stalker. And then as I hit this, now I'm going to go pull this pack. It's, again, 2 more Phase Blades and a Far Stalker. So these mobs are going to come in. They're going to teleport to me really quickly. The Far Stalker is going to make his way in eventually. And then this is like free damage. So this is just this is something that I love to do in Ecodome, and it's really good for classes like Frost Mage, obviously funnel classes like Havoc DH, Arcane Mage, Sin Rogue, classes that really benefit from having additional targets nearby to focus boss. Now, some players don't know about this, but I want to showcase. First off, this pull is really chill. I actually just okay, so this pull is really easy to kind of set up. So what we're doing is we're grabbing this 3-pack here. We're skipping by everything. You don't need anything specific to skip by all this trash. It's all far enough away where you can just walk by. There's 1 Ritualist here and a Phase Blade and an Elemental. We're going to kick the Arcane Bolt. And then you can use this pillar right here to line of sight and get all these mobs stacked up nice and neat. So we're going to get a little Ring of Peace action. Now, getting this pull stacked up is nothing crazy. It's kind of like tanking common sense. But this orb right here, this council, I love how my thing like split, the footage split. This is used by enchanters. Maybe some classes as well, but enchanting allows you to use this. You need at least 25 enchanting from the current expansion, and when you channel it, it's a 4-second channel, which will then stun all the mobs for like 10 seconds. You can see my extra action button right here. I am an enchanter who has at least 25 enchanting, so I'm able to actually utilize this. Now, I don't do it until a little bit later in the pull. You do want to be a little careful, because when you're channeling it, especially as a tank, you're still going to be getting hit in the face. So I did leg sweep just to buy myself some time. It's a 4-second channel. I'm now facing the mobs, and the channel is going to complete. Now, bam, it goes off, and all of the mobs are stunned except this one random Wastelander. So that's how you do that, and that's good. And I think that's pretty much all the tips. I will say that these creepers are kind of free, at least on the Brewmaster. These creepers are like free % and they're worth a lot. So if you can get these into your route, it's very good. And that's pretty much all the things that I have for Ecodome. So let's jump into the new dungeon, or next dungeon. So this next tip is super, super minor. I don't like Dawnbreaker. I hate Dawnbreaker, actually. It's not that I don't like it. I actually despise this dungeon. Once I get a high enough key in this place, I never want to come back here again. But there's a little cheese that tanks and healers can do on this fight, and that is, when you pull Rashanan, for some reason, the swirls will spawn on the actual boat's like deck and not on these railings here. So what you can do as a tank and as a healer, so you can just basically tunnel and just like do max damage and healing without having to like dodge or anything. Again, this is super minor. This does not matter for 99.9% of players. And I think like strafing is not a bad thing to do. But basically, if you inch up all the way into his hitbox, these swirls will not hit you at all. And now you can just sit here and tunnel. So healers can then free cast without having to like dodge a swirl or be on the move at all. This is more impactful in phase 2. Obviously, you still need to do these Arathi bombs, and honestly, DPS were able to pick them up. But again, healers being able to just like plant under boss without having to worry about dodging swirls is really good. And this happens in phase 2 as well. So in phase 2, you can do the same thing. You can see I'm inching all the way into his hitbox. My healer is also standing right underneath me. And this is going to allow him to just like funnel damage when he needs to and just sit here and spam heal without having to like dodge left and right. DPS and casters can stand underneath here as well, but just know that you will have to move out for these mechanics. I guess a minor tip is like you saw that our rogue went down here. You will get that darkness debuff if you go down into this lower half of the quadrant, but it takes 10 seconds to kill you, so you have time. So if you have a way to quickly get back up, so our rogue is going to grapple, you can jump down and it'll keep your upstairs platform a little bit cleaner for players who are maybe not as mobile, for casters, for whoever. But as you can see, we're just basically going to sit here, and if I speed this up 2 times, you're going to just see that it's like, here's the group damage, and I'm just going to sit here and I'm not moving at all. So very small tip in this dungeon. I don't really have anything else as of right now in terms of like cheese routing or specific things you can do with certain mobs. So yeah, that's Dawnbreaker. Let's go to the next one. So we are in Streets of Wonder. This is probably one of my favorite dungeons this season. I know a lot of people don't like it. I really do. I like the pacing. I like the smaller pool sizes. I like the boss fights. I think they're all fairly engaging. I also like when you're able to pull trash onto boss, which is true in Ecodome, and it's true in here. Now, of course, there's always danger with pulling mobs onto bosses, but what I like about this dungeon is that most of these mobs only really have one main ability that they're doing, which is true in Ecodome. Where in other dungeons you have many things going on. It's like curses and kicks and shoots and loyal beasts and just it yeah, a lot of shit that I don't really care for. But in this dungeon, we are finishing off the mini boss, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull these overseers onto boss. These overseers are worth a good bit of percent. They do a little bit of a tank buster through proxy strike, and they spawn beams baited on players. So players can bait beams, and that's it. And because this boss was made a lot easier, this is a little bit simpler to do. So here's first beam, there's second beam. They spawn at the same time because I pulled them at the same time, so they're synced. So as long as everyone stays in melee, we're going to be good. So what we're going to end up doing is pulling boss. When you do this strategy as a tank, make sure you're using defensives on the proxy strike. The proxy strikes will humble you if you're not careful. But as you can see, the circle spawned. We're going to have beams soon. Beams are spawning now. One is under boss, one is right behind us. And then we're simply just going to move away from the beams. And now it's a non-mechanic. We don't have to worry about it at all. So this is like free percent, free funnel, really good strategy. The next thing I want to talk about is the menagerie. There is a little bit of a role-playing skip here that you can do. So I'm going to slow this down so you guys can see what's going on. I'm going to skip ahead, and then I'm going to try to backtrack, and it's not going to work the way I want it to. Okay, so right here. So we're pulling the dire horn down to the cats. Now look at this door right here. So if you guys know anything about the menagerie, you know that when you enter the room of the menagerie, you have to wait for Venza Goldfuse to do her little like talking RP and chatting about how she's going to like whatever, steal the weapon and shit. Because I think it's like an auction house basically in here where they're auctioning off creatures and weapons. But if you go up to this door, it starts the RP because it's actually an indicator based on like distance and not necessarily entering the room. So you're going to see our shaman. Our shaman's up here in Ghost Wolf form. You can't see him right now. You'll see him in a second though. He's going to jump down off the staircase right there. And he's going to run up to the middle of this door. You can see him like touch the door with his snout. And this triggers the RP. So I'm going to try to stop moving my mouse so you can see it, but if you look down in the lower left-hand corner, my text box will pop up with the RP event. So it's the cartel's eye has a profitable venture. Hopefully this indicates them to aid our own. And then you're going to see Venza say something about something, and that's basically indicating the RP start. What I need is a distraction, the kind with sharp teeth. And so then she's spawning the boss, basically. And so this is happening while we're just dealing trash. Like, so when we go to that boss room, we can pull immediately. We don't have to wait for anything. Now, alternatively, you can always just like have your healer run in or a ranged DPS run in while you're still pulling other trash mobs later in the dungeon. But this is the most efficient thing you can do in terms of like where you're located and keeping your group close. Because what you could do is you can like pull these Peacekeepers and just walk with them into the boss room, which is also totally fine. Now, one thing that we do as well, and as you can see, we're actually now going into the boss room with this boss already spawned, ready to go. We are pulling these Peacekeepers. Now, Peacekeepers are kind of interesting because they will spawn a shield, and that shield, the phalanx field, whatever. This makes them immune to like magic damage, but we have a full fizz comp, so we don't lose a lot of damage with this strategy. So we're pulling Alcrux over now. And we're just pulling trash on the boss. So this is a strategy that some groups can use, especially if you're playing in all fizz. Again, if you have a lot of casters, don't recommend doing this necessarily, or maybe you only pull 2 and you have coordinated CC. So that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else. The one thing I will say is that this mini game here, when you're clearing the Oasis, why is my recording like splitting? It doesn't matter. Once you do the third mini game and you do your last trade and you're waiting to kill this Overseer off. Now the Overseer does have a tank buster. Called like Phase Blade or something that puts a bleed on the tank. Now, this guy has the password list set. These are the real passwords that can get you into the Oasis. There's 11 total options. Obviously, you don't get told the password until this Overseer dies and you wait for RP to happen. But a tank specifically could try guessing these or I guess there's 10 options. You can try guessing this pattern. What I have found is it's generally, and this, don't take my word for this, it's generally option 3 through 8. It's rare, very rarely like the top or the bottom of the list. And so what a tank can do is while this mob is dying, as long as you're like making sure you're going to live, because he does a burst of physical damage and he knocks you back. So if anyone else tries to guess, you're going to die. But what I can do is now select one of these options at random and hope that it happens to be that. So I chose Golden Sands and I got knocked back. And now this guy cannot be talked to for like, it's like 8 seconds or something. But by doing this, you could high roll and guess it properly, and then you're good to go. You don't have to like really, you can just go into the Oasis with this Overseer still up. It's more of a gamble for time save, but if you happen to guess it right, you're good. So here's me guessing again. I'm going to click Amber. I'm going to go down the list. Actually, I think I did Jade Palm first, and then that one I did Golden Sand. So normally for me, I just start working my way down the list starting from 3. I believe the other day I actually one-shot this. I just guessed it on the first try, and it was awesome. So again, minimal time save. No one else should try to do this, or you'll get one shot. So I guess one more time, it was not right, and then we end up getting the right guess. So it's all good. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the skip. Now, this mini boss, in my opinion, and my healer and I have gone back talking and discussing this, is we think this mob is efficient to pull now. We think skipping this is not the right play. We'll see what ends up happening in higher groups. We think that some of these other mobs in here that you'd have to pull for counter just a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more annoying. They make you lose damage, where this mob is just really efficient now. They reduced his health by 16%. They made his shock mines disappear. Lethal force has been nerfed. They did so much. But I talked about this in my commentary video that I put out, I think, 2 weeks ago now. And this is pretty much the same footage because I haven't pushed, basically. We haven't played in the last 2 weeks. We're going to be pushing probably later this weekend after this video comes out. So what we're doing is I am going to pull this mob away. Now, this mob has True Sight, so meld strategies here are really difficult to execute because Spectral Sight mobs, you have to create a very, very like large distance between you and the mob, and this mob doesn't really spell queue and like stand still for a long period of time. So it's really difficult for most tanks to probably do this strategy. Now, one option is you can just die, and that's fine, but we're going to do something kind of cheeky. So I have a talent called Transcendence Linked Spirits. So instead of having to place down my Transcendence location underneath my feet with a global, what I do is I connect to CL, and now I have a buff that's tethered to him. So whenever I hit Transcendence, instead of going to my location that I put down, like a predetermined spot, I can now transcend to wherever CL is located. So I'm going to be pulling Zophar away. My group can now walk around and click on this because they're not in combat. This does not put you in global combat. I'm now going to turn around because he does power kick. I don't want to get knocked back anywhere. I also don't want to get knocked into a shock mine. So being on the stairs is the best because I won't move whether it knocks me back or not. Then I need to create enough distance to get away from this guy. But as you can see, he's already chasing me. So I'm not going to be able to realistically meld here without him still being able to see me. Now there's a very, very small global. You can probably click this and get away. But for me, I'm actually going to go to this corner. And CL is now located right above. He's on the ledge of the platform, and this is shorter than 40 yards. So I'm able to transcend up to him from down here. And then I shadow meld because I created enough distance. Now, alternatively, like you can pull the mini boss down like over here, and then you can like double roll, you can heroic leap, you can pop a steed, and then use your shadow meld potion. But this is a way to skip the mini boss. Now, again, my group personally now pulls him. We timed, I believe it was world first to 16 back in week 1. This is not the run because we ended up pulling him and I wanted to talk about the skip. But basically, we think he's efficient now. We think you can pull him with a couple of the different Peacekeepers, blow him up, and you get like a free 10 to 15% depending on what you pull with him. So very easy. But that is the streets tips that I have for you guys. Next, we have Ara'kara. Ara'kara, there's not a lot going on in this dungeon. They significantly changed the count in here, which is unfortunate. That means you're not able to do some of the skips that you were able to do back in the day. But I want to talk about one very specific thing here because I think it's really good to understand how some of these mini bosses work, because these are the things that I see people die to the most when I'm running these dungeons and pugs or even with like guildies and stuff. So these are the mini bosses in the dungeon. This is the first mini boss we're going to be dealing with. Now this one's really hard to do it on because of where these eggs are positioned. But basically the frontals are coded where they can only aim at this widest part of the platform here, and they can never actually hit behind the mini boss. So what your group should do is stand behind the mini boss, and then you never have to worry about dodging the frontal or getting hit. So as you can see, the web spray was baited on us, but it will never go this way, to its right. It'll never go back here. Now, again, you have to be super careful of eggs. So yeah, just be careful. You can basically avoid this frontal altogether by just standing behind. Now, of course, we're all standing out in front. We have some range, but it's a way that you can plant, not have to worry about dodging anything. Oh, and random side note, Resonant Barrage is what mostly kills people in here. Make sure you're kicking it. Ideally, you kick Web Bolts, and then you use CC on the Resonant Barrage, because then it's on cooldown already. So I want to actually fast forward to the second mini boss, because I think it's a better example of the frontal tech, I should say. I don't even know if it's tech. It's just kind of like smart gameplay advantage. So as you can see, our healer and our DPS are all kind of sitting here. Some people are still in front because they just don't know. But you'll see here in a second, once he decides to cast the frontal, that it won't ever really face the edge of the room. It'll always face out in front, even if players are standing behind. And so as you can see, most of us are kind of standing back here. And like, look at how polluted this area is and like how many swirls you have to dodge. What's also nice about doing this strat is all the crawlers will spawn stacked up. So no one was over here. It tried targeting one of these people, but it finds the best closest path to the targeted player, which is always going to be out to the side. So this is just like the small minor tip I have for specifically Ara'kara. I guess I can also talk about the skip into second boss room. I'm not going to do it in this run, I don't think. I think we actually end up failing this run because of a DC issue. But you can skip into the boss room. I'm going to back up just a little bit, try to find like a good angle. So this is the pack that dies. Now, if I'm right here, so Warrior, there's a couple of classes that can do this, but like Warrior specifically can like heroic leap into the boss room and pull the boss with like Spell Reflect or something. And if it's playing arms, like you can use Die by the Sword. And it'll snap us all down into the boss room instead of the opposite, where it'll like snap the boss up or a reset or something like that. As a monk, you can use Transcendence link to your ally, and I can link to Nama, our warrior. He can heroically down. I can then transcend to his location, similar to like what we just talked about in Tazavesh Streets, and I can then pull the boss instead, making it a little bit safer for the group. Evokers can rescue people. You can lockgate down. Rogues, specifically Outlaw, can use their grapple. So there's different options, like obviously DHs can Infernal Strike down there, Heroic Leap Warriors, etc. Like a lot of classes can do that, and as long as you pull the boss and you can live, if you're not a tank, your group will get snapped down into the arena. So good strategy to use there. All right, and finally, this is the last tip I have for this video specifically. I might get into more specifics either in commentary videos or maybe a video in the future once I kind of stumble upon more, because I pushed week 1, haven't played since. Well, I've played casually, but haven't really pushed since, and so hopefully once I start pushing again, I'll have more tips for you guys. Now, massive caveat here. This strategy only works if you're playing with a full range composition. So I'm going to actually maybe skip past this Goliath. So we are getting ready to go down into the boss room. There are these guardians. We don't really have a good way to skip. We're going to pull all of these guardians onto boss. These mobs really don't do that much. They don't really hurt the tank. They do this frontal, which is baited on tank players. And then the only other thing that they do is they cast their like charged pulse or whatever it's called. And now, as you can see, this mechanic, well, unfortunately, it got desynced. It's very punishing for melee, but it's so free for your range. So our range are just going to stand at the back of the room. I'm going to make sure I'm trying to aim all of the frontals like away from obviously the range DPS, so they don't have to worry about dodging. And now they're just able to zug. They're just blasting big damn. So I'm going to play kind of in my own little corner. The crackles will eventually disappear. I rolled out the wrong way on accident, and that's it. Like, there's nothing crazy you have to do here. There's not a lot of defensives, or not a lot of like tank damage, so you don't have to use a lot of defensives outside of the searing swings from the boss. The only issue with doing the strategy is when these purifiers spawn, they'll obviously want to target some of your range. So try to do your best to pick them up, but if you can face these frontals away, you'll be looking real good. And yeah, that just about sums it up. Those are all the tips I currently have for the season. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if I missed anything down below or anything that you guys have seen that maybe I missed, and I will try to replicate it and talk about it in a future video. Anyways, I hope you guys are all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.